Hello and welcome, Campbell here from Autodidactic. And of course, autodidactic means to be self-educated. And we all need to be self-educated because if we're not, the only choice we have left is to believe what other people tell us. And we know that most of the information comes from dodgy sources, shall we say. So we need to be self-educated. And today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a look at some photos from Sydney. These are all from around the turn of last century, around 1900. And it shows Sydney basically, 112 years after Captain Cook allegedly landed in Botany Bay, and there was nothing here, nothing at all. They tell us basically the story says it's basically a Stone Age civilization was here, right? So no mining. They didn't know where the resources were. Definitely no buildings or cities. Yet within 100 years or so, they're whacking up buildings like this. Now you can see the size here. These are people in the doorway. You can see this door is three or four times as tall as them. And this is, clearly Greco-Romano, National Art Gallery. We've seen this everywhere, right? The pillars with these scrolls at the top, the porticos, of course the steps going up. Big wall here. I'm not sure, it's not the best kind of contrast, but there's some kind of frieze in there. And at the end here, there's even a circular structure. It looks like a castle turret a bit, but I think it's looks to be open with pillars going around it. And I don't know what that looks like a car. I don't know what that is up there. A UFO. And not many people around, right? Like big wide streets, these massive buildings, and fairly empty looking, at least from this, photo. And even these old world fences with the little balls on the top, straight out of, well, they would tell us Greek, Greece or Rome, but maybe out of a previously advanced civilization. Okay, so here we have George Street in the CBD of Sydney around the turn of the century. You can see we've got a horse and cart here and a tram system. Sydney had a full tram system, which was ripped out. Thank you, Mr. Rockefeller, for that. He did that so he could replace all this, free energy system, electrical cheap energy system, with his buses, right? Because he was in the oil business. So that's why most cities today don't have trams, but they all did. Like all cities, it was part of the makeup of these old world cities. And of course, down the road here, this massive dome with a belfry on the top. Looks like it's got an antenna and just wall-to-wall buildings, right? It's a complete build out, like completely. Around 1900, the population of Sydney was about 400,000. Okay, so a few people, but I mean, for a city this size, not really. 400,000 is about the size of Canberra. I think that's about 450,000. So you don't need cities like this. And also, you don't need these massive buildings. Again, look at the size of the people here. And look, this is one story right here. Again, right? It's three or four times as tall as this dude. So massive buildings. And this is a colony, right? That's trying to get on its feet, apparently. So it takes, four times as much material and time and getting all the material here and finding it and digging it up and, all that kind of stuff. You need four times as much to build a building that's four times bigger, right? So why would they do that? Another shot here. This is, what does it say there? King Street. And, there's a bit going on. There's a few people. Is it a full city? Don't know. We've still got horse and cart, so, it's that time frame around 1900. But just look how well everyone is dressed. Even this looks like a kid here with a suit on and his hat. All the ladies in their finery, got their nice dresses on. And this is Australia, and and you see this in all the pictures. Everyone's in suits and these ladies in these massive dresses. was pretty warm in Australia. Yeah, and we tend to see this all across the realm, really, in this time period. Everyone's suits and big dresses. So was the climate different? Was it colder back then? I don't know. Where was it maybe because these people, weren't so used to the sun? Were the populations brought in from somewhere else? Because they always get wearing hats. They got their like over here the parasol, the sun umbrella, which is kind of weird, right? Sun umbrella, but look at her dress. So if it's sunny, why is she that dress up? Because it gets hot in Australia, man. This is the old train station, Central Station, again around 1900. And again, like you can see the population. These are the people going to the train station. Not that many. I don't know what time of the day it is, but not that many. And this train station is massive. Here's some more trams. The tram, and you can see, right, that all integrated. The trams took you to the train station. So the trams were inside the city. The trains were, city to city. So they had it all sus. But you can just see this is all old world stuff. Like look at this wall down here. All red brick stuff. And down here, they roads? They're pretty wide roads, aren't they? Nice arch. This is the Argyle Cut in Sydney. They say that they've cut through, stone like a cliff, big stone outcrop to get through, right? So they can get under. So they've built this big red brick arched, bridge. And, it just looks completely old world, right? We've got this stone wall up the top here, sitting on stone. And then over here we have a wooden picket fence. So again, there's two different types of technology going on here, right? Got these wooden picket fence and just old world everywhere. Look up here, all these antiquitech and spires and stuff. And again, we see this all across the realm. Now this is Barrack Street. And, again, not many people. This is a paved road as well, you can see. It's all paved. Uh, you know, Everything again, right? Columns, arch windows, we know the deal, right? All the features. And then these massive electricity lines, right, that we see that sort of pop up around this time. Before these, there's a lot of, power poles that don't seem to have power cables connecting them, which is interesting. But this tower, I mean, look at this. It's got a hole going through it. It's just open. Now, I mean, I haven't had a look actually. There's a clock down here, but has that got a clock in it today? Let me know. But that looks like the kind of thing, right, that they normally would put clocks in. Like all these towers tend to have clocks on them, right? And kind of in that position. But this is a complete open, like tunnel, right, through this tower. So is this what they all were? And is this some kind of tech? First thought, right? If you had a fan and a generator in there, you could get free energy just off the wind moving through, right? Was it something like that, or was it maybe a way like acting like a speaker to get resonance, frequency, and sound out? Because underneath it, it looks like there's bells. It's a bit hard to see, but you can see there's something in there. It looks like two bells, right? So was that being channeled out through this like a speaker? I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments because I haven't seen that before. And then, of course, massive spire off the top, all the belfries, all the columns up there. Like it's an antiquity tower. And then on the bottom, we have these, plant pots is what they look like, right? We see them everywhere, but these ones have got tops on them, right? With these ornate onion balls, is that what I can call them? So did they all used to have these tops? And they've just taken the tops off them so that they don't function anymore. Another shot, Bathurst Street. Again, we've got horse and cart here, like everywhere. So in this shot, horse and carts definitely still the main form of transport, and they still had trams at this point. And again, like look down the street, massive obelisk. Big dome up here with a spire, big antiquitect thing here. All old world buildings. This looks like an old wrought. Is that part of it? Oh, maybe that's different. But this pole still looks like it's a wrought iron pole and pretty tall, right? But that's for the power line. So is that old or new? I don't know. It might be repurposed, unless that's holding up the tram lines. Actually, I think it could be for the trams, and all these wires in the background are from something else. But anyway, what I wanted to point out is this roof, right? We've got this old stone building, clearly it's got all the markings of the old world civilization. And then off the front, we've just got this sort of crappy veranda roof, right? It looks like they've put tin up there. So different tech, right? And of course, the horse and cart, right? Different tech to these buildings and what you would need to construct these buildings and move all the materials in. Different tech, right? So this is definitely this is a found city that's been populated by people of lesser, technical knowledge. There's a shot showing the trams next to a horse and buggy, of course. A nice chimney up here, very ornate. What are chimneys? Because fireplaces don't seem to be made, the original ones, for fires. Right? They're not very practical. And all these old pictures you see, the fireplaces, they've always got artwork hanging above them, which, in an open fireplace is not a good idea because they would get covered in soot, right? And they have all these ornate, mantles and things. Again, not a good idea with an open fire. And then we have lots of photos, of course, with, different little objects in the fire on each side, the balls, and talk about radium fires. So if that's all true, then I wonder what the actual chimney is. I've heard some people say that it was actually meant to be to bring things in, right? Not let smoke out. To either draw air down that gets heated or energy, maybe. Who knows? Still working on that one. Belmore Markets again. Marketplace, right? Horse and carts everywhere. And look at this building. Just art, arches everywhere, completely symmetrical. I've got the pillars built in there with all the artwork and the friezes on here. More symbols. This looks like the symbol for the sun. But that's all around there. They're just always so ornate and so well done. Completely different to how we build today. Dome on top. Now these roofs with all the windows for light. And they've just found that and used it as a marketplace. So, do you believe that they would build this as a marketplace in 1900 for a population of like 400,000 people? I mean, it's a bit extravagant, right? And again, it's a new colony. They don't have all this money and resources. They're trying to build infrastructure. Well, that's the story, but clearly they found the infrastructure. Another shot just to show you, right? Spires, domes, everywhere. Look down in the background here, right? They're popping up everywhere. And just like literal wall to wall. And we see this everywhere, right? These buildings just butt up against each other. This wall to wall all the way down this street and off into the distance. And here we have more of these ornate poles that are holding the tram lines up. Now they definitely look old world wrought iron. And more of these, crappy verandas coming off these old world buildings. Two different types of architecture. And everyone dressed up, suits, dresses. Weird. This is Bridge Street. So these are all different streets. So it's the whole city is full already, built out. Look at this amazing tower down here. Right, got the domes and the belfries and the spires. Another one here. Bit of antiquitech on top. We've got the Mercury ball. And down here, look at all these columns on the front of this building. I mean, this is intricate work. This is not easy to build. And this is apparently they tell us, right, this is what they were building. The first buildings was all this stuff. And now, so we've degraded. Now we're just down to these crappy, brutalistic buildings that are just, you know, they're just not on the same level, right, as these buildings. Another tower, right, with an onion dome this time. And then you could show that picture to someone and say, this is in Venice or Italy, and they believe you. Middle East, right? More domes, spires, just everywhere. That's sort of why I wanted to go through these photos is because it just shows a city that, apart from being completely built out, and the juxtaposition of tech, right, with all these horse and carts around this 1900, and this is a fully built out city, like completely built out, and it's got all the tech, all the markings of the Tartarian civilization, the old world civilization that was found, not founded. This just shows again the size, right? It's like a city for giants. Look at the size of this pillar compared to this lady. It's twice as tall as her. These massive gates. Like everything is just overkill, right? And look, it's just completely built out city with domes popping out everywhere. Look at this dome. It's one of those dome on dome domes. A double dome. Over here we've got a mud flutter, right? You can see one level here and then it goes down as we go down the street. And the obvious size, right? This is a dude. It's not even a full level. It's still 2.5 times as tall as he is. So we get told this story in Australia of settlers and convicts and how they built, they went out into the wilderness and they, um, you know, found all the, the gold, right? And all the copper and iron and all these different things. And then they started industries like pearling and bananas and food, all this stuff, right? They were just doing it. This is the story. And they were doing it while living in bark huts and doing it tough. But when we look at the actual pictures, it's a completely different story. We see people living in massive, extremely well-built cities that they don't seem to match. Like there's no wooden huts around here. Right? Look at this, the width of the roads. Look at these massive lamps in the middle of the road. Like they're huge. Like, look at this. This is a wagon, horse and cart, and look where the light is. The docks, right? Circular quay at the Orient Wharf. And this building here, what does it say up there? It says 1882 by the looks of it. Can't read that. But this building looks empty, don't you think? It's got an empty look about it. It's probably because you can see straight through these windows and there's nothing in there. Right? You can't see through. They're blocked up or something. But is that a building that they've found, but they just haven't got round to, you know, fixing it up, renovating it, right? Renovating to renovate is to change, the legal agreement of a building. So, maybe when you find it and you just renovate and say, well, there's no one here, so it's ours. You're changing the contract. And so that's what they do. They renovate all these buildings. And, horse and cart just around these massive buildings. It's massive light poles. Doesn't make sense against the narrative, does it? The colonial sugar building. Aerials on the top. Same thing, right? These arches, these balustrades, we see absolutely everywhere. The symmetry, the stonework, the brickwork, and the mud fluttery, right? You can see that bit of a window there, and they just get bigger as it goes down. And again, the people. So these people are here, they're almost the same height, but down here, this is at least double as tall as him, and that's not even the full level, right? And it's, what is it? One, two, three, four, 5-story building. And of course, in the background, domes, spires. Come down here, domes, spires, wall-to-wall buildings, everyone in suits. It's the same story everywhere, the same story. And then down here, what's this? A couple of bits of, some ladders or something with a couple of bits of wood hanging off them. Someone might be doing some work there. So again, the tech, two different types of tech going on here. This is Druid Street. Again, we've got stairs going up on this building, which again, very nice building. What's that? Oh, trees, I think, at the top there. But look at this one. Look at the massive dome on that. You know, this, I'm not sure what building this is. Haven't been to Sydney for a while. But that could be a government building for sure. Right? That could be Parliament House, Government House. It could be a library, maybe a university. They just repurpose them all. And that's a big building, man. It's only like 3 stories. Look how big the stories are. Massive. This is George Street again. It says David Jones Corner. So I guess this is David Jones and Company and Co. Massive dome down here. No, it's not the same building, but geez, another huge building, right? And you can see like this is 2 stories, right? One there, one there. This building next to it, that's at least 3 stories. One, two, three, and it's shorter, right? So it's significant size difference. I guess one option is there are different sized peoples, right? Because even this one at the end, it looks like it's getting shorter, right? 2 levels there, and it's only coming up to here. So different sized people. Is that what was going on, or is it because these, especially these bigger domed buildings, colonnaded buildings, they're machines. They're not meant for inhabiting or turning into libraries or parliaments because they're machines. Is that why they're bigger? Because it just gives them, better acoustics and stuff. What do you think? Let me know your comments. This is Elizabeth Street. Okay, big wide streets. This, not sure, looks like dirt. Don't think it's paved. But look at this massive spire with the wall on top. All right, 1900 or thereabouts. We've got the horse and cart on the roads and electric trams. Again, that's a bit of a juxtaposition of technology, right? You got this entire electric tram system. Well, I'm assuming it was electric, and horse and carts. Though we do have a car here, so this is obviously when cars were just becoming popular. So early 1900s. Everyone well dressed. Just that they're just weird photos, right? And not many people, again, not many people for this completely built out city, which now, I mean, there's suburbs obviously, but now there's, gosh, 3 million in Sydney, I think. I mean, it's just crazy. Okay, this is the Jewish Center. You can see here this very ornate dome and little domes here. Like an extra one on top, that just looks like a full machine. And that's now, well, that was the synagogue back in the day. Look at these trees. These are big trees, right? This is a horse and cart. These are massive. These are probably 100-year-old trees at least, right? So in the narrative, we're supposed to believe what they planted the trees first because they're clearly, been planted in a row. They've been put there on purpose, and so what they did, they planted them and then, built the city up around them. I mean, that doesn't make sense. And another one, I mean, look at this building here. Like there's no need for all this stuff at the top, right? To make everything so ornate back in the day when apparently, right, resources were low, trying to build a new, colony country. Because 1901, that's when Australia was federated, right? Became a federal institution, I guess, right? Basically a company. But 1900 was when the official legal de jure. Constitution went in. So this, Australia's very new still, right? Like literally before this, it was a colony of England. And, look what they've created here, apparently. Clearly found, right? They found all this stuff. All right, here we have the firemen. Look at this cool contraption. Got their ladder on top. Um, I guess they must have another horse and cart for the water. Maybe that's, yeah, there's more firemen. Maybe that's the water there. Don't know where the fire is. Can't see it. But look how clean it all looks, how clean the streets look, right? And the side pavement and how empty they look, to have all these buildings. And they, like, again, these are all different streets. This is Castle Ray Street. Is that how I say it? Castle Ray? Castle Ray? Something like that. So they're all different streets and it's all the same. Wall-to-wall buildings, right? Everywhere. Who's using them all? There's not that much foot traffic. If these are all businesses or whatever and built because they needed to be built, well, they should be being used, which would mean there should be a lot more people on the street, right? There's no internet back then. They'd be running around spreading, dropping things off, getting messages, but we don't see that. Another big mud flooder, as you can see, coming around the corner. It gets bigger. And yeah, this guy, look at the door size. Look at this is one floor. I mean, looks like one, might be two. I'm pretty sure it's one. And another floor down the bottom here, right? So that's a massive building. If it's, what, two-story, maybe three stories. I mean, it could be one, right? Just with a bottom, what do they call them? With a cellar at the bottom, right? For their beer and their coal and all these other stories, and then just domes with antennas and balls on them, onion domes, more domes. Like none of this has got anything to do with Australia. So why would they have built it like this if they were going to build it right? You think if anything they'd be copying England, and none of this looks particularly English. Just to show the size of some of the buildings. Right, look at all these people and look at the size of these archways. All right, ridiculous. Massive clock on top. Look at that. It's got its little antiquity stuff and dome. And here are these pots again, right? But now they've got lids on them. And we see them everywhere sitting on the buildings, but most of the time now there's no lids. So what were they? Some kind of, I don't know, battery maybe, like the Baghdad battery type setup? Don't know. And it's interesting, this, you can see all the photo opportunities, right? These guys staring straight at the camera with their top hats on. This guy with his top hat staring at the camera. This little kid is as well. Photo opportunity. And it's a bit hard to see what what the artwork here is, unfortunately. But all this facading too, again, no matter what country you go in, the facading, it's always very similar, right? And nothing to do with the country that it's in, like this. We see this everywhere, right? This, uh, what do we call it? Flora inspired design on the top of the columns everywhere. Nothing to do with Australia. And these, right? These tiles with this symbol that again is, well, we're told that it's for the sun, at least in some cultures. Right? See all the tiles, so you see that everywhere, everywhere. And the squares, across the inside, and just the way this is built, right? Going out at all angles with these curves and arches, it's the same stuff everywhere, and massively oversized. Again, here's the people, the doors up here somewhere. Found, not founded. And just another day in Sydney in 1900, right? A few more people in this photo. George Street. Still everyone in suits, women in big dresses with their parasols, and just wall to wall looks everywhere, right? Look at this spire here, this tower. Just it's just all old world, right? And so there's quite a few photos here, but what I'm going to do is leave the link below in the description so you can go through them all yourself, have a look. So we'll check out a few more. I just, again, it's just a look of it, right? It just looks empty, massively wide streets, everyone dressed the same, all the buildings, clearly, old world, right? They're just interesting pictures of Australia 120 years ago. Right, here's a tram. They were working fine. They ripped them out to sell us oil and to give us cars, right? So that we can fill these big wide streets with cars and sit in traffic jams, right? Rather than using a transport system that would work and a bit of exercise, a bit of walking, right? We don't need cars in cities. We don't need a lot of things in cities. Cities suck, but these old world ones, they look pretty cool to me. But again, right, just wall to wall build out. And then on the front, these cheap and nasty tin roof verandas. If they were meant to be part of these buildings, because this is the thing, right? We're told they built all these buildings immaculately, perfectly, not a mistake in any of them. But they forgot to put the veranda on the front. So then they had to come back. And this is obviously, the build date for most of these buildings would be 1860 to 1900. So they forgot to put the veranda on and came back, right, within 10, 20, 30 years and just whacked these up. But everything else in these buildings is perfect. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Big cathedral over here. Very inspiring, right? Look at all these spires everywhere. Oh, look at that archway. A mini version of the Arc de Triomphe. Again, just it's everywhere, right? I think this is the same cathedral we were just looking at. I think it is. But look at this. Massive tower, massive dome with a dome on top. The old world looks like these are holding up the tram lines, but even these like have the little balls and stuff, but they free energy, right? Just sucking it out and then just powering the trams with it. It could be, right? Massive building in the background there. And then again, just wall to wall, literal wall to wall buildings all the way down. And again, wall to wall buildings. It's just everywhere, right? Like as far as the eye can see. And then silly roofs. Looks like someone's chucked their rubbish out on the roof here. And this, okay, I think this is called the QE2 building, this building here. And this is the dome we've seen in a couple of photos. Right. It's just some randomly massive building. This thing takes up a whole block. It's massive, right? But what the QE2, that's Queen Elizabeth II, obviously. They just built a building, right? Just why not? Why not? We're just a struggling new nation. Let's just whack up a massively oversized, unneeded building with a ridiculous dome, just for the fun of it. Here's the same building. So you can see like domes everywhere, right? All the way down the side, massive in the middle. And again, massive, perfectly symmetrical, no mistakes ever, still standing building. Portholes across here. Again, we saw those in that tower, the hole in it. Did the portals somehow serve some similar function? Because we see these everywhere, right? Of course, porthole, portal, right? Portal, it's pretty similar, right? More domes and spires here, just everywhere. The old world in Sydney, Australia. All right. So, guys, if you do enjoy this kind of content, let me know. Give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, share the content around. Let people know that Sydney was found, wasn't founded. And you know what we never see in these photos is warehouses or like transport system to get all materials for these buildings to build them. Like we just go from these weird, photos that show, empty streets with no people and maybe a landscape that's barren and one building popping out of it. We go from that to this completely built out, finished city. And it just happened. I think it was the gold rush, apparently, right? The gold. You find gold and buildings just start growing out of the ground, apparently. And even here, right? I mean, there's just so many signs. Apart from the fact this is way too over the top and intricate, to be turned into tailors and mercers and shirts and, all these silly businesses. But look at the sign, Peeps and Co. Right? They've just stuck this on the front of the building, like this one. It's just probably it'd be a piece of tin or wood, paint it on and just hang it off the building. So clearly these buildings were not made to be this, to be shops. Right? They've been repurposed. If they were purpose built to be shops, there would be there'd be places for signage. Right? It wouldn't look like, an apartment building, our version of that. It wouldn't look like housing, right? It wouldn't, it's just silly. And when they knock these over, they come and they knock them over and they replace them with, stupid brutalism, modern buildings for shops, right? Because these ones didn't suit the purpose. So why were they built in the first place? It's just such a silly story. And then even on the front here, right, you can see these are put on the front. They're not part of the building, I don't think. These top bits might be, but this front bit, this would be something added later, right? Their coats of arms and basically their brand, right? Their mark saying, I now own this. And look at this old world building, it's looking a bit Moorish. The keystones there just kind of make it look a bit oniony. Might not be. Small building here, and you can see this roof. I'm sure that most of these roofs were re-roofed. Maybe they could be tiles. But you see a lot of cathedrals, especially, right? And they've re-roofed them. That's what all these construction photos, they're just renovating photos. But look at this. Look at all these columns all the way up, all perfect. Right in the middle, we've got this stone sort of bit, to just to make it more difficult, right, to build. Right, with the ornateness all hanging off the back of this, off the front, sorry, of this old world building. And look at the windows, all completely symmetrical, right? And then look at the top. Like, look at this. Here's one of these big, they look what we're told is French, but it's just another function. It's another machine, right? Look at all the spires and antennas going up into the ether. This is one of those wrought iron fences that we see on the roofs going around. It's creating some kind of circuit. Here's another one, all right, like that. And all these spires are part of that. Here we've got the portals, right? They tell us they're just fancy, cool windows, but is that the truth? Or is probably the truth is probably more that it's part of this machine. It's part of the function of this machine, because that's what it is. It's a machine. And we've been told they're buildings, but I mean, buildings is a silly word, right? What are you building? I'm building a building. I mean, it's a building. It's just a weird word, right? Doesn't mean a lot. So this is, yeah, some kind of frequency harmonic regulator resonator machine, I would think. I mean, yeah, with all these speakers up here, these portals, the roof. What do you think its function would be? I mean, clearly the cathedrals are more like the healing sort of frequencies, but these, I don't know, is it dealing with just electricity or is it dealing with frequency as well somehow? Let me know your thoughts. And we'll finish on this one. Like I said, I'll leave the link for the all the photos below. You can go through them. There's a lot more. But this is just a good one, right? Empty streets, very wide, hardly anyone out. horse and cart, all these, added verandas at the front, and it's just an old world city built out wall to wall with domes, with spires, right? These little plant pot things with the lids, right? Just all the features of what we would call a Tartarian city, Star City. And New South Wales, I mean Sydney, the harbour, Sydney Harbour, full of star forts. So it was a star city that they found, probably after some kind of deluge, probably not fully inhabited. I'm sure the people here probably didn't know how to run it right, after the reset in the 1700s. And so they've just found it empty, walked in, claimed it as their own, renovated, right? Written new contracts for it all, basically with themselves to say, well, we own it. And this is part of the whole legal system too, right? The whole maritime law where they say that we're lost at sea and so we're dead entities until we come back and declare ourselves to be living. It's the same story, right? There's no one here, right, in this city. So they just claim it and they say, well, everyone must be dead, that they have abandoned it. So therefore we'll take over it, right? So we need to stand up and say, no, 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 we are men and women and we're back here to tell you this is not your stuff. This is our inheritance, our birthright. And then kick them out, try them, throw them in jail and get rid of government, bring back the free energy, the free travel, the freedom, the free thought, right? Because, the internet's getting we're getting to the thin edge of the wedge, right? On the internet, especially with AI, it used to be that the internet helped us, right? We could get information off it. It made things easier, it made communication easier. But now we're at the point that it's so intrusive, and it's basically just set up to collect our data and to push dodgy products at us. It's no longer that useful. It really isn't. So hopefully we can get back to something more like this in the future, right? Where we can use our own creativity rather than um, renting it out to ChatGTP or some other AI platform. All right, well, there you go. We'll finish with this. Lots of people in the park having fun, all dressed up in their Sunday best. All right, thanks for spending some time with me, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And stay awesome. And I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins. Come on!